Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ye Old Foundry. Now, why don't I make a lot more videos? Well, I have, while I have the capability of making things, there isn't a lot of things that I need to have made. But I've kind of saved up a few small projects that I've been thinking about doing. One of them happens to be to help my wife. Now, my wife, unfortunately, like millions of others, has in her, you know, not old age by any means. She's like 67. Old age to a person like me is 75 or older. But my wife has, through the length of her life, especially in the last decade or so, has started developing arthritis. Okay, and if any of you have had or is developing arthritis, you know how much of a pain that is. Um, the cushions in between your finger joints and where the joint, everything moves. The cushions, they wear out, and then there's swelling between the bones, and a certain amount of the bones start shifting on you, and so you don't have that grip anymore like this, like you had all your life, or most of us had all our lives. And I've got a project that I think I kind of think it's going to work, but it's going to I think if it does work, it's going to assist her when it comes to shower time. Okay, let me show you what I mean. Okay, here we are in the main bathroom for my side. Well, what would you say? The master bathroom. Okay. Now I'm going to show you a messed up. Well, it's not no totally messed up, but it's like the typical shower. But as I bring you into the shower, it's going to get a little darker, so I'm going to move the shower door aside. Now, my wife, her poor hands are getting all to where she can't grip like that anymore. This is the original, shower handle, and you've got to be able to get in here and grip to pull this out. Okay, so what I've designed is something that she can grip easier. Okay, just made out of 3/4 inch PVC, and this is just going to be the pattern. I'm not going to put this in here, but once I get this cast, I'm going to take this off. Okay, and see the screw comes out, and this will come off of the valve stem, and then I come in here and it'll be tipped up a little bit, just so as I can, let's see if I can see, just so as I can have a screwdriver go at the proper angle to be able to install this screw, or a screw that'll fit inside this, that'll be long enough to go through this portion here, so that it's anchored nicely. Now, because I won't be able to, I don't know, maybe I'll just drill a hole straight through here so that it can be straight like this and she can pull it. But the thing is, you don't have to grip hard. What you could do is, let's see if I can, all right, I'll just set it here. No, that'll fall off. Well, what you could do is you could just put your hand over it like this and pull out, and turn. You don't have to grip like you do on this. This is really hard for her to manage when it comes shower time. Okay, so I'm going to make something for my darling wife that just may give her a hand in the shower. Okay, we're back out in our little home foundry right here. And what I'm, in preparation for making this, okay, for the wife, the handle in the shower. I think I've already, a matter of fact, I know I've already shown you a little trick of the trade on ramming up stuff that happens to have an unusual, like this whole thing right here, I'd have to ram up. I don't have this split in half and put on a board and make it a two-piece pattern. It's going to be a one-piece pattern. But first things first, I've got to find the parting line for that and make a rough, estimation of what the parting line is. Okay? So, one moment, I'll get me a Sharpie and hope that the Sharpie has got enough ink in it, because this is one of those that's been in the garage for ages and ages. Now this is an easy one to find the parting line, because it's going to be the apex of this curvature, right? You have it rammed up in the sand like this. The upper half of this is going to be in the cope, the lower half is in the drag, okay? So basically it's really simple. You just look at it and you estimate the apex on this and just go all the way around doing the same thing. Because see, you've got a lot of, you don't have to be precise like a machinist has to be in their work. You've got a lot of room to make a mistake in this portion of it. Okay, the less mistake, the less work you have to do later on. It doesn't mean the less mistake or the more mistake it ruins the project. It just means you're going to have to repair or get rid of the excess on the casting once you've cast it. Now the inside's just a little bit harder because you can't see the center line as well, but you'll be able to find it. Hope I don't erase this with my fingers. No, I'm not. Anyway, get down the center here. Okay, go around the center there. And almost got it all. And there. That's all I need to do. This is just to help me do the project just a little faster. I don't have to try and find the center line as I'm ramming it up. Okay. Now, sometimes you'll come into a project and get aimed up a little bit. In my case, I'm only going to need one of these. We've only got one shower that my wife uses all the time. The master bathroom shower. And, that's the one she uses. There's another shower, a guest shower that we use, but she doesn't use that. My hands have not yet developed arthritis, which I ain't going to hold my breath that I'm not going to develop it, because I had signs recently where there's problems. Nothing so far bad enough. And I'm 65, okay? I imagine if I was really going to get it bad, it would be a lot further on in my hands and feet and legs now than it might be. So anyway, back to the subject I was starting. I'm only have to make one of these. But let's say you're out there and you've got you got a grandma and a grandpa, their shower, then you need one of these. You got one for your wife, you need one of these. You might have a friend who's got very bad arthritis and you want to make one of these. Well, you're not going to be wanting to, every mold that you go to, you have to make a bed for it, and every single time. Okay, that's just more work. That's more time spent on the project that you wouldn't necessarily have to do. I'm going to show you how to cut some of that time and some of that work. All right. So let me get things set up over here at the bench, and I'll bring you back. Okay, we're over here at the bench now, and there's a few different ways. You know, when you're making many of one thing, there's different ways you can help yourself in making those. Okay, in the case, where did I put it? There I put it. If you're going to make one of these, okay, let me put you about that way. It's easier. Yeah, I'm closer. You're going to make one of these. What you could do, like we do, is go ahead and just grab a bunch of this sand, pat it down into a bed, press this down into the bed, and then pack it up to the edges, and then, you know, dig yourself down to the parting line, right? But that's not what we're going to do this time. I'm glad this is a slick surface instead of wood. What we're going to do is we're going to use one of our stack flasks, and we're going to make a platform. It's going to be like that bed I just showed you, but instead of just a hill that we press this down into and then use a tool to find and form the edges, the curvatures on the side, we're going to make this a nice whole flat. Now this is not, we're not going to be trying to make a mold of anything. This is just going to be a tool to help. So I'm not going to have to do a lot of the stuff I did in the past, like venting, scratching, and all that. Yeah. So what I'm trying to do now is just trying to, almost like making a block of clay that I can use. Use its capabilities, its mechanical applications. And you'll see what I mean in just a second. Because I'm not going to be lifting this up and worrying about the halves or the different layers of separating and screwing up my entire mold, okay, I don't have to scratch it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to scratching or striking or all that, all you got to do is go back and watch my the one video that has to do with making a mold. The one that I say the most important video that I made, well, it is the most important video that I've made, because it teaches you how to make a mold, all the different steps to make a mold, so that you have a much better mold and you have a lot less casting defects. Let's see, keep this from falling over. All right, rammed it up, filled it up. Now we're going to strike this off. Now this is the new Petrobond powder, Petrobond sand. It does not look like the Petrobond sand, despite the fact that I used the ingredients and the times and all that. It just feels good. It doesn't feel like it's losing all its properties, but even when you make this stuff brand new, it's not supposed to look like cookies and cream. Okay? When it comes to like ice cream or something like that. This looks like vanilla ice cream with chocolate bits all through it. And that's not what it's supposed to look like. And I have a suspicion of what went wrong. Okay? You're supposed to use only detergent, non-detergent oil. The oil that I got did not say non-detergent, and it didn't say detergent. You know, it just said 30 weight oil. Crossing my fingers when I got it, I said, oh, I sure hope this stuff is non-detergent. I'm beginning to think it was detergent. Okay? Hoping not. I mean, it's acting okay right now. All right, I'm going to get my hammer. I'm not going to try and hammer this into submission. I just need something to sink this down to the parting line. Let's see if I can. Oh, it's going down, yay! It is being nice. Okay, that's right, that's down. I couldn't do that better if I tried to strike it. Tried to cut it with the double ender. This is a double ender, by the way, in case you don't already know. The reason why it's called a double ender, because it's got two ends, and on any double ender, this is a spoon, by the way, and this is a leaf-shaped slick, where you would just take this and you would slick things down, right? Something made a noise over here. Anyway. Okay. Now, the next thing is, now that I've made this, I didn't have to make a big bed. Because the bed wouldn't have, been as easily smoothed as this. Now don't be too surprised if you're not understanding what I'm doing yet, because especially if you've never done this before, this is just preparatory to what I'm going to show you. Okay, now let me see if this is strong. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it so that it loosens up around this frame. This frame doesn't have anything on the inside to keep, it's just a straight wall. So I ram it hard. It would be good enough if I didn't have to lift this too much or turn it sideways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill myself with that. I'm going to give myself a little bit of wiggle room here, and Voila. Now, we don't care to keep the sides, because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to keep my elbows or things clean. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to whittle this away. Let's see if I can get this into here. The chief advantage of having Petrobond powder or Petrobond sand is that you don't always have to take it all out and get it wet again, making sure it's got the correct wetness. It's a lot easier on the molder when it comes to working with it. I mean, green sand, water-based sand, is easy to make, and it does the job. Now, it did the job for thousands of years. You know, once our ancestors figured out that you could mix clay with sand, boy, they really did a good job on making molds and such. Okay, that's fairly good. I'm gonna have to go out here. And we just whittling away the excess. This is almost going to look like one of those pyramids in Central America instead, but it's going to have a giant pipe on it. Okay, what we're trying to do is we're trying to give it an angle here that's going to be easy to ram up in the copper drag that I'm going to be using next. So you got to give it a good little angle so it's easy to carve out. Okay. The next side. The one thing that I don't like about this, regular Petrobond sand wouldn't fall apart as easy as that. Okay? So I'm thinking that I screwed up and got the wrong kind of oil, detergent, with detergent in it. But that's okay. This is only one batch of sand. I only made a 100-pound batch. And this isn't so bad that I can't utilize the what I know are the properties of Petrobond powder or Petrobond sand. Okay. Now, if you know what a follow board is, it's a board that you've got, or like you might have plaster of Paris on to follow an unusual curvature or an unusual parting line curvature, you know, that you're trying to replicate. In this case, it's a very simple project, or a very simple you know, simplistic geometric shape here, that it's not going to be too hard to work with in this sand. This sand isn't as strong as normal Petrobond sand. Now if that sand was supposed to be non-detergent sand, and this is still acting this way, of all the different things that I did, it could well be that mixing Petrobond sand in a cement mixer is not adequate. But I almost got to say that that's BS, because when I mixed the Petrobond powder with the sand and stopped it after the 5 minutes? Yeah, 5 minutes of mixing in the cement mixer, it looked precisely like it always did when we mixed it in a molar. Okay, it's just after I started mixing in Petrobond, the oil with it, it seemed like it separated from all the grains. So it was almost like the oil was washed by possibly a detergent in the oil, and made the grains of sand a little too, they were not coated by the Petrobond powder any longer. Okay, let's get this here. Okay. Now let's see if I can make that a little smoother. Because what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to be making the most important part of this affair, which is going to be the mold in which I will make a semi-permanent well, it'll look like this, okay? And that's using plaster of Paris. There was a weird thing happened yesterday. Now this has nothing to do with molding. A weird thing happened yesterday. I went out. I wonder if I have poltergeist in the house making noise over behind me. Anyway, I went out to check the mail yesterday, and it was like I lost my hearing. There was no sound coming from the streets. There was no noise coming from the air. The wind was dead calm. None of the trees, of course, so if the wind was dead calm, none of the trees were moving and making noise for that. It was just silent. And I'd never seen it be silent like that, at least here in Jacksonville. You usually at least have sound of somebody going up and down the streets in the neighborhood, or the sound of the people going up and down the street on the main street by our neighborhood. Kind of peculiar. I was at that point, I wasn't really nervous about it. It was just one of those, this is weird kind of moments. And I went back in the house. If something was going to happen, they ain't going to find old sand rammer out in the front yard like some kind of dummy waiting for something to fall on them. Okay. Almost got her. I gotta say though that this Petrobond sand is not as bad to work with as I thought it might be if it was a pure failure of manufacturing. Okay, let's get the excess crap out of here. Now it's fairly ready. Okay, there I did. Let's see how this works. Yep, just right. Okay. Gotta get this centered up. Now, let me give you a little bit of a better look in here. I've got the bedding made. This is what they call bedding. I got the bedding made. It's at the right height for ramming up in a drag because you still have. Do I have a flat? Do I have something flat I can use? Ah. You see how much room there is from the face of this to the what would be the edge of this? That's plenty strong for almost anything, especially if you've got good sand, to ram up, okay? Now the clue on this is that, well, I'll show you after, but this is not going to, this is going to be in the cope. This, but is it? Yeah, it probably could be. I don't need that much sand around it. It's only going to be aluminum. It's not going to really hit hard on the sand. Put you back down. So, my next thing now, see, Petrobond sand. That's appropriate for Petrobond sand. You get the clay on your fingers, kind of dirty, and you get the oil, kind of dirty. So if you like nice clean sand to work with, if you don't like getting your hands dirty, stick with the water-based sand. Okay. No, I don't want anything to stick with this, so go. Now we're getting a little bit of powder in there. Okay. Well, I haven't been out here a long time. I got spider webs on the inside. Okay. Now, everything's ready. Now, if you're wondering why I'm sticking it with my fingers, well, we do want this to be as hard as I can get it without using a pneumatic rammer, because this portion I want it to stay nice and, you know, I want it to stay in the shape that I'm trying to form right now. Because I am going to be relying on this portion that I'm making now to help me make what I'm trying to show you. Come on, shirt, stay up there. Now what I am going to be doing, though, that I don't always have to, but I am going to be doing it to keep things from moving, to keep things from falling out, is I am going to use the 3 clamp method of turning this over. It'll ensure that the sand won't fracture and come apart. And this is really what that was made for. That was devised because of maybe your sand is a little bit dry, not as much oil in it as it really should have, and it might easily fall apart. We don't want this to fall apart while I'm trying to get it formed nicely. Now, for those of you who don't know about the 3 clamp method, I'm about to show you. I did show those of you that watched the video. That was especially supposed to help those who might not be strong enough to pick up the 1/2 or even both halves of a mold. Flask, I mean. Okay, that's flat. This side. This is a bottom board. For those of you that don't already know, let's get this up a little bit. This is a bottom board. There's a gentleman over in Australia whose channel is Ol Foundryman. O-L Foundryman, all lowercase, and all one word, okay? And I watch him. This guy makes some excellent castings, okay? And I watch how he does things. I said, yeah, that ain't gonna work. He's gonna have defects there. No, that's not gonna work. Every single time, the castings come out beautiful, okay? But the one thing that it would help him, I hope you're watching, Ol Foundryman, that would help him work easier is to have bottom boards made that have cleats on them. Okay, what this does is it allows the whole thing to sit off the surface wherever you set it, and you're able to use clamps on it. You're able to grip it underneath. He uses bottom boards but without cleats, which forces him to pick everything up, and I mean, he's got to have some decent sand, because it doesn't seem the sand doesn't seem to fall apart at all. Okay, right. 3-part. Well, what is this thing doing? Like, oh, this is part of the stuff that I cannibalized from an old television. Then this is I guess where they had their joint. It's just pressed powder. It looks like it's not even sawdust. It's not even sawdust. It's saw powder. It looks like. Anyway, so this is where the joint was made in the factory. There's the curvature where they brought it together. Don't need that. Don't need that to be a pain. One of these days I'm going to have to go out and buy some 3/4 inch plywood like this was made out of and make some appropriate or proper bottom boards, because that what I have now is scrap material that I utilized. Okay, anyway, back to the story. Okay, first clamp. Make sure you're not clamping to anything other than the flask. Just put that there. Clamp number 2 on this side. Okay, and what this will do, this will keep everything. Why is it going sideways? It appears to be going sideways, but it apparently is not. I guess not. Optical illusion, I guess. Anyway, you take these and you tighten them down. You don't have to tighten them down like you're gluing up a board, but you tighten them down enough where the thing is going to stay together and not slip at all. Let's get my foxtail, and it's always better to try and put everything, clean after yourself. Oh, here comes a sneeze. Pardon me. Anyway, okay, both of them clamped together, right? So you were still moving. I don't like that. Okay, bring it up on its side. Okay, nothing's moving, right? Get clamp number 3 and put it over on this side. So that you are now going to have the wing nuts. It's going to be on the top again. This one's holding. I come over here. I bring it loosen it a little bit. Clamp this back up, and then tighten it down. Okay. The next step, just take this one off and set it aside. And then, without gouging yourself in the shoulder like I just did, flip this over. Now everything has been flipped. Nothing has moved, nothing has fallen, nothing has changed. Okay? The 3 clamp method. Okay, now what this is, it's time to do some digging. Okay, but before I do that, I'm going to get my air gun and all that stuff ready, so that once I get down to a certain part, I can just easily blow the sand away from the shape. Okay, that's what happens in theory most of the time. Better not get too much of this stuff on the shirt. The wife will be upset. All right, I'll be back in a sec. Okay, let's see if you're still here. Hey, you're on. Okay. So what I've done so far, I've gone ahead and dug out with the spatula, or not the spatula, but the slick, the trowel. Gotten most of it out. And I'm trying to get as close as I can to the wall without scratching things up. Okay, let's see if this will lift off for me. There's no adjustment on here, so I'm going to have to be careful. There we go. See how it fell out off of here? Problem is, it's flying all the way over there. So let's see if I can put something in the way. Ah, I have something I can put in the way. One of our old pans. And it's gonna fight me. That's just gonna fall down once I get this stuff out. Maybe that'll help. Let's see if it does. And let's see if you can even see now. You can't see now. Let me move you over to a spot where you can see a little easier. Now you're looking at the ceiling. All right. Well, let's see if I can give you a little more height. There we go. Okay, there I put it. Guess I'll just have to just do a little bit of this. Now if this was the right, if this was acting right, I would be able to use air to blow it out of the way, but it's not acting right now, so we're gonna have to do it like the hard way. Thankfully I've got this set up where it is at the right angle, so I don't have to really dig too hard. I sure hope you can see. I'm going to aim you down a little bit better. All right. Get down to the parting line, and then I can do a little bit of smoothing. There's the parting line. We're slowly but surely getting it at least the sand does act okay when it comes to smoothing the surface. So the sand will have a bit of a advantage over green sand, despite its not being as strong as I'm used to having Petrobond be. I just happen to think I still have the air plugged in, and I'm sure it's going to scare the bejeebers out of both of us if it comes on. Okay. Okay, mister, there you are. Let's see if this does anything. Whenever you're trying to use something to smooth your sand down, make sure the edge you're going to use is actually smooth, because it will tear your sand up. See, now that one, a little bit of rust on it, is not acting good. whenever you're using a brush in here, it's got to be one of those really very, very fine brushes, very soft. Then you can use it without much of a worry of it tearing up your mold, especially the part of the mold that has the detail, like detail on a flask, or rather on a plaque or something of the sort. All right, let's dig a little more. Well, this is going to take a little while. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, heck, I could put you back over here now. I know I'm not going to be using air. Anyway, I'm going to turn off the camera right now so that I can get this done. It'll take probably 10 minutes or so before I get to the end. As soon as I get it ready, I'll bring you back. Okay, you're back on. I went and tried to turn you back on, but almost immediately after that the battery died, so I had to go get a new battery, which gave me a chance to change the shirt, because those long sleeves not only was heating me up, but it was getting all dirty. And guys, if your wife is the one in charge of laundry, you know why I had to change. Anyway, so I am down to where I have to be. Down here, I've gotten all the way down to the parting line, and the sides of this here are pretty much the right curvature. I'm going to try and blow that out, because it's, even though I'm going to be putting powder in there, it's going to have too much sand. So let's see if I can get it out. All right, well, that looks halfway decent. Now to smooth it out the rest of the way. Plus, well, there's two things it's going to have. I'm going to be pouring plaster of Paris in this. I don't really want it to soak into the sand at all, but this isn't water-based sand, so I'm less likely to have that problem. So I'm putting this on here. If I was on water-based sand, this would act as a dry, almost a mold coat, and not allow the stuff to soak in anyway. Okay, that's all I'm going to do now. So I'm going to blow this out. Not real bad. Okay, I'll bring you over to my workbench. Sorry for the dizziness, if you're getting dizzy from it. Okay, There we go. I bought this plaster of Paris a long time ago for just such an occasion. Anybody who uses plaster of Paris, it's a very simple formula. 2 parts plaster of Paris, 1 part water. Okay? Now I'm going to look at this. Yeah. That ought to do well. I hope. Cross my fingers. And the best thing you can do is to add the plaster of Paris to the water, not the other way around. Why would that be? Well, just try it. You'll see why. It absorbs the water right away, and you worry about whether or not the chemical reaction to the water is being accelerated right then, and whether or not you've got enough time to work with the plaster of Paris. Let's see if I think I've got you angled. Anyway, here's number 1. Mix it all in so you don't have any worries. Now this is not a bowl that my wife is going to yell at me about. I bought this for mixing stuff in here. Okay, see this? This is water right now. There's no way it's going to solidify. Here's number 2. Oh, and by the way, this is a double batch. I've got 2 cups of water here already. So if I'm going to have 2 to 1, that means I got 4 of these to put in. And you just keep stirring it until it's mixed. You don't want batches of dry stuff floating in there like lumps. The more you mix this thoroughly, the better your plaster of Paris is going to act. Okay, I don't see anything more in there. There's a little bit. Now once you start pouring in and mixing in the third and when you go more than halfway on your amount, you can't waste that much time anymore. Got to get it mixed and then get it poured. I mean, it doesn't solidify in 5 seconds, but the sooner you get it mixed and poured, the better it'll conform to the form you're trying to have it, simulate. In this case, it's going to be the bed that I made out of sand to hold the pattern in place. Let's find that. And now, as I said, this stuff doesn't solidify immediately like molten metal in a mold. But as soon as you get it mixed, you need to pour it. If you were trying to copy, let's say, a wax figurine, you would also have to make sure that you got a vibrator, you know, a pneumatic vibrator, or maybe even electrical vibrator, and attach it to the mold or whatever it is you're pouring this into, so that all the powder, the air can be displaced. Obviously, air is lighter than the plaster of Paris, but the plaster of Paris is also very, very thick, and it wants to keep the air in there. It doesn't want to part and allow the air to rise to the top. Okay, so you got to get a vibrator that forces the plaster of Paris to let the bubbles and air out of there. The more bubbles you have out of the mixture, the smoother the surface going to be against your pattern, whether it be wax or styrofoam or whatever else it might be. And then the smoother or the better the metal will be coming against a nice smooth surface, mold cavity. Let me move you back over here so you can see what I'm doing. Now, I didn't make enough to fill this entire thing up because I don't really need to have this be as full as that. Right now. So don't you fall in there, you bugger. Okay. Now this is not going to have all the bubbles come out of it, because all it is going to be a support. But I would love to have it nice and flat as it can be. So you, just like when you were a little kid making mud pies, you just do that, and this will be nice and congealed or flat like it used to be. Okay, I'm going to have to turn you off for a second, not only to let this solidify, but I got to wash out the spoon and the bowl before that stuff gets hard. I'll be right back. Okie dokie. It's poured. Okay. It's not ready to be pulled out yet because it hasn't solidified all the way. So when it becomes solid, I'll go ahead and bring you guys back, and you'll witness what it looks like when I pull it out of this. Now remember, I'm just going to put this back in the pile. You know, this sand. I'm just going to put the sand back in the pile. Its only use right this moment was to make this hole so that I could pour the platform upon which the pattern is going to sit, and make my job easier. If I want to make one or two of these, 3 or 4 of these, this platform, the follow, is not going to last forever. Okay, it's not meant to last forever. If you wanted to have something you could mix up and pour, and it'd be a lot harder, a lot more substantial in its strength, you can go ahead and get some of that pink dental plaster. That stuff the pattern makers used a lot when they were trying to replicate a broken pattern. Okay, that was just one step, but it lasted a good long time. All right, very, very strong stuff. All right, so while this is solidifying and the chemical reaction is taking place, I'll go ahead and turn the camera off, and I'll be, you know, the next time you see me, this will be ready to be taken out. All right, see you later. Okay, welcome back to the scene here. All right, I'm going to turn you back around over here and hopefully point you down a little bit. Now this has been sitting for a couple hours. It's solid now. So I'm going to take it apart. Maybe I'll just go ahead and see if it falls out by itself. If it doesn't, I'll just break up the sand. All right. Same old process. Three clamp turnover. Okay. Oh, by the way, before I turn this back over, take a look at the clamp. Okay, it almost looks like a regular wood clamp. Okay, especially this portion right here, but this portion right here is flat. It's a lot smaller. Okay, wonder if I can give you a better example I've got. Okay. I do have a pipe clamp that we usually use for gluing up wood. So you can see this portion and this portion is almost the same. But this portion, the bottom portion, you see how much larger or thicker? Longer. How much longer that is? Well, that would have a heck of a time trying to get under in between these here. But this works perfectly. Okay? So if you're going to get any of these clamps, make sure you get the ones that can, well, that's just about less than an inch. Yeah, because this is an inch by inch by inch stud, not stud, but wood that keeps the flat platform off the ram up board. But you could, I don't know if you can see it or not. Anyway, this is totally taller than this is tall. And so it's easily gotten underneath here, and it doesn't interfere with this getting right back on the ram up board. So we get this in there. And we clamp it enough to hold everything in place. Take this loose. And I think I heard something fall out. stuff went all over my foot. I'm gonna wash these off. Brother, wife ain't gonna be happy about me dragging sand all over the place. And those of you who aren't worried about what your wife says, you ain't been married long enough. Let's move everything over to the other, the shop bench over here. I don't want to get any plaster Paris in with the molding sand. Goodness sakes. Anyway, so what we're going to have here, now I've got to whittle this down to the parting line. This is compressed around this. So it's a matter of, I'm going to get me a regular knife. This one is not sharp enough. I won't need a knife. I've got a scraper right here that might work just as well. Okay, that's getting close. And that's getting close too. That's almost right on. So let's do a little trimming around here. See, the thing is, if you get everything down to the parting line in the beginning, the sand or whatever, it's easier for you to do this portion. That's the parting line there. I should go on this side so you can see some of it. And I guess we're aimed down pretty good. So I got the parting line right there. Don't have to scrape at that point. Okay, the parting line is showing. But is it on the inside? Well, that isn't going to reach inside there, so I've got to get another scraper small enough to reach inside there. This should act okay. Nice and quiet in here, isn't it? Wish I could play my music, but YouTube doesn't want to get behind the 8 ball when it comes to having to pay for royalties. It's understandable. I can understand that. Tell a bit of this molding sand got wrapped around by this plaster of Paris. Stuff is not powdery at all, so that means it's not 100% cured, but that's okay. That also means it's not 100% hard to work with. Now once I'm able to get this pattern out of the follow board or the block, then I'll be able to nibble it down a little bit better so that it can be taken out easier. So that's good there, that's good there, not here yet. Bet you pattern makers remember doing this stuff. Probably going to have some in between there, so it's probably be smarter to get it from this area and lift up. Let's see if I can get something small, like a scribe. Really don't want to screw that up. Wait a minute. I'm going to see if I can do a little bit of wrapping. And I don't mean the rhyming type. Stay in there. Now this is a wrapping tool, by the way, if nobody's ever seen one before. This is kind of a copy of one that either a pattern maker or a machinist, I think it was a machinist, decided to make for us. I don't know if one of the molders gave them the dimensions or the basic shape or anything, but you take, whether it be a screw or whatever, into the pattern and you tap it, and this gets a certain amount of force to form a gap all the way around the pattern so that you can more easily take it out. Hopefully, this stuff is still soft enough that I can get me a little bit of a gap. And coax it out of this block. Just in case you probably haven't guessed, you get more force with the big end than the little end. And the little end you use when you're trying to wrap something and take it out that's small or it's got a lot of detail to it that you don't want to ruin. Got you all the way down. I bet you this stuff has attached itself to this when it was wet. The form isn't what's stopping me. And I really don't want to try and get anything underneath here, because if I put too much force on there, it might snap this, and then I'll be having to make another. So I'm going to have to do it another way. moving. Wonder if this will be allowed. Don't want to screw this up too much. Sure does almost seem like it's ready to come out. Need to give myself a little more of a lip that I can get underneath the edge here. Ah, here she comes. So all I needed was a little bit of a ledge. It is still very adamant about not coming out. There we go. Okay. And there it is. Before I use this, I'm going to have to let it cure a little longer. Oh, there's one reason why it wasn't so good, because it has a little burr right here. Yeah, and some of the plaster Paris went in between here in the crack. So that might have been just a little bit of a sticking point. So it's a matter of cleaning this up. Let me get a little file and clean this one piece here. Files and mess. Just a little filing and it should come out easier. Plus we got some lettering here that was cast into the plastic. That certainly didn't help anything. trim in here. Okay. So, this is what I was working for, so that every time I try and make this, I'm not going to have to, cut down or carve down to the parting line every time. Now all I got to do is just set this, there we go, set this inside that. The parting line will be formed for me. I turn everything over, and when you pull this up, theoretically this will stay in, but I'm going to have to trim it more so that there's a lot more free, so that it can fall out like that. Right now it's still got some close clearances so that it won't fall out. So that's one way of saving yourself a little bit of effort and time. Because if you've got this all the time to hold this, you ram up the drag, you turn it over, you have this with enough clearances that you can, this will just drop out. And he said drop out. Anyway, you got the idea. There we go. I'm absolutely going to have to make more clearances in there. So you turn it over, you take this out, and this should be in the sand just like that. And then you can ram up the cope and make this out of aluminum. And that is, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, one of the projects that I have upcoming is making one of these out of aluminum so that my wife, with her arthritic hands, can reach in and open the valve and turn it for hot water, cold water. Okay? There is a guy in the area who has a business, and he learned how to, make castings while in the Navy. I'm not 100% sure if he was a molder or if he was, learned how to be a molder and decided to become an HT after that or whatever. But anyway, what he's doing now is he's making a bunch of Navy plaques and decorations, plaques and decorations and emblems and the like. And I have a project I'm going to do for him in the near future. I'm going to do this first. My poor wife needs a little hand, and I'm going to devise this and make it for her. I think the next video is going to be me making this for her. Okay? And we'll, I don't know, maybe I'll get another batch of sand and get, I absolutely saw 30 weight oil. It said non-detergent at a Pet Boys one time. Okay? This is like only half as strong as regular Petrobond sand. It still works some. I mean, if you never have to suspend anything, you know, no weight at all, you know, it'll stay in there, and you might be able to make use of it. But as it is right now, I'm not satisfied with the product that I have, despite the fact I was able to use it tonight. I need to make it a lot stronger. In other words, make it the right way. So, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, now that you know how to, you know, you could use this technique for almost anything that's got an unusual, for instance, let's say you want to make a bunch of these clamps, minus this, of course, a bunch of these clamps for your own, you know, drill press, okay, or for make it out of brass and bronze or aluminum. Brass and bronze, brass especially, is very close to the strength of some mild steels, okay? So if you was to pour this out of brass, it almost would be as strong as cast iron and mild steel. Not quite as strong, but almost as strong. And so you could use this, make one of these, and you would have an easier time of making a bunch of these. Now this, I would limit it to up to 10, let's say 10, whatever you're making. After that, when you're ramming it up all the time, this is going to start to break up, and it's not going to be as good, okay? What you can do is you can, for instance, I've done this before. Let's say you've got this and you've rammed it up, and instead of ramming up this portion, you make this from here up just flat. Like when I was pressing this into the sand, you make that flat, and you're going to have just the 1/2 of this. And then you make that out of aluminum, you make the other half out of aluminum, you put it on a board, you line them up right, put them on a board. You can make hundreds of them, because the aluminum used to be made for the master patterns, and it lasts. They last quite some time. Wood doesn't last after 50 or so ram ups because of the, you know, the amount of. It's almost like using sandpaper on the wood when you're ramming it up. It really deforms a lot of the detail, and of course, plaster of Paris, very fragile when you've got thinner stuff. So that's an idea for you, okay? I'm not going to put you back in there. I do still have to make this just a little bit. It's got to be able to fall out on its own. So I've got to make this a little bit more clearance in here. Anyway, so that's done. That's one step towards making that. It's one step also towards teaching you how to make that. Okay, don't forget plaster of Paris. You can get it anywhere. I think I got the plaster of Paris at Home Depot. I think, can't remember, but it's 1 part water, 2 parts plaster of Paris. And when I say a part, whatever measurement device you're using, like a cup, like a standard cup, even if it's like a teacup, if you put 1 teacup of water in the bowl and 2 teacups of plaster of Paris, you've still got the proper ratio of water to plaster of Paris, and it'll still come out good. See how this came out good? Came out nicely, and I'm happy with it. Okay, well, I don't even know what time it is anymore. I'll get this online, and maybe somebody will be able to make use of this information. Next time, I'll be making this for the wife, and we'll see how it goes, okay? Liberty Call, everyone. Who knows what that means? And we will see you the next time, ladies and gentlemen. back here at Ye Old Foundry.